over 10,000 videos, 3 evening rentals, so no rush, no hassle. Fast checkout, 24-hour quick drop return, open late every night.
Wow, what a difference!
That's a 1990s Blockbuster video commercial.
Back in the olden days, you went to Blockbuster Video for movies and TV shows. They rented videos, but you could also purchase and own your own copies of the media you enjoyed. That model thrived from 1985 until 2010, when modern-day streaming pushed them out.
Nowadays, if you want to watch something, we pull up Netflix, Prime TV, Hulu, or even YouTube, if you're okay with watching a million ads for every video.
When's the last time you used a DVD to watch a movie? Or loaded up a record or a CD to listen to music?
Welcome back to Unplugged Minds, a 4-part podcast about Gen Z's disillusionment with digital media and attempts to unplug from their phones.
Because your parents were right, it is those damn phones.
We're students in the School of Journalism at the University of King's College in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm Luke McNabb.
And I'm Talia Freedhoff, and we're Gen Zers ourselves. We get it. Today, seeking media autonomy. Streaming services were supposed to revolutionize the way we access media. But now, everyone's overwhelmed with subscriptions. People are spending hundreds every month on subscriptions. And even then, ads are being reintroduced on the lowest tier of those platforms. Is that not crazy?
To put this in perspective, for Spotify and Netflix, the basic single-tier pricing has changed in the last decade. In 2015, you could get both subscriptions for $9.99 a month.
Now, Spotify takes $12.99, and Netflix, well, they've nearly doubled, all the way up to $17.99.
When you think about physical media, your first thought might be that, well, it's old. And you aren't wrong, but several recent articles have noted that younger generations have been turning back to that media.
So we went out to the streets to try and figure out why.
So I use film cameras.
Okay.
Yeah, it captures, like, I think just something real that on a phone camera or whatever, everything is just so crisp, whereas when you're looking at film, it's like you're really there. So I love that.
I have a CD player and a record player at home, and actually at my house here. But I don't really use the one here because all my CDs and records and stuff are at home. But when I'm home, like in the summer, I use it literally all day, every day.
Digital cameras I use a lot. I had a camera that I think was made in like 2010 that I still use nowadays.
We have a record player, and I like records. I think they're still one of the finest, like the highest quality sound. I think it's irreplaceable compared to something like Apple Music.
So it seems like a lot of people are actually turning back to physical media, especially Gen Zs.
Last episode, we talked about making the best use of your time away from screens. In a way, this concept ties back to that too, especially when people talk about how much more meaningful it can feel listening to music on, say, a record player, or even using an old film camera to take pictures on a night out.
It's part of this whole idea of taking back control. Dr. Hanieh Shakeri is an assistant professor at Dalhousie University who specializes in human-computer interaction.
It's kind of by design, our autonomy is being taken away from us, partially from the data that's being collected, but also what we're being shown, like the algorithms. There's this idea that you can control what you see in your algorithms and stuff by like changing what you interact with. And I think to some extent, yeah, we have control over that, but it's not all within our control. My personal thought is that a lot of times people are shown like content that's meant to keep them engaged rather than what they themselves would want to see. So like, you see a lot of like rise of like controversial content or something that people will want to react to or something. And so your autonomy is being taken away from you in multiple different ways along the process. Like you can't control what you're inputting and you can't really control what's being output to you, right. But it's designed to keep you kind of locked in and like addicted.
This is so bad.
Totally, but Hanieh says part of the antidote is real media that you can hold in your hands.
For example, when you interact with like let's say a physical photo album, you might only look at it like once every few years or like, very infrequently. But every time you do, it has a lot of personal meaning. Whereas like if you have things that you can constantly access, they might lose meaning like through the rapidity of interaction. So like slow design is kind of like stretching out time to increase meaning, which I think is also like a way to move forward in terms of like the more positive uses of technology.
That makes sense. As some of our streeters said, it does feel much more purposeful to do something like, say, put on a CD instead of shuffling your Spotify playlist.
The next natural question, I think, is where are people going to get their hands on old media? Sure, some people are turning back, but are there enough of them to make a profit?
Actually, record stores have seen a huge boom in the last decade. A Music Week article credits Gen Z for this revival, finding more than a quarter of Gen Z surveyed bought records once a month. That's still nowhere near as big as the record craze in the 70s. Statista tracks record sales in the US and says they've gone from 2.8 million per year in 2010 to more than 43 million as of 2024. That's more than 15 times more.
I'd love to be able to see it in action.
Well, you're in luck, because Taz Records, a physical media store that's been around since 1983, is still up and running. In fact, let's get over there and check it out right now.
Yeah, we're here in Taz, and Luke, you said you're actually looking for stuff today, right?
I am. I've already found one. Foxy Brown, Il Nana, one of my favorite albums, on CD for $9.99. I cannot wait to make this an addition to the card collection.
And walking through here, the first thing you kind of notice, of course, is how much of that physical media there is. You can see rows in the front of different CDs, and you can see, of course, a ton of records, which is, the main thing that I think a lot of people know them for. It looks like cassette tapes, which is really cool. Another thing you kind of notice is just how pretty a lot of these album, or the cover arts, I guess, are for these records. Just the art is really something that stands out.
Hey, all set there?
Yeah.
All right.
We also had the chance to speak with someone who's super passionate about physical media. The store's owner, Jimmy Donnelly. He's been working at Taz for 15 years.
I still get a thrill about physical media. I still get a little excited about opening up a box of product. What did I order? What's coming in? When you're playing an actual album, you're going to pay more attention than just slapping on and letting the algorithm think for you. There's also nothing like having a shelf full of records. This is very exciting when you're looking for that thing for so long. And you're like, oh, good gravy! Here it is. I found it. Physical media is growing. It still is. Not the way that it maybe once was 5 to 10 years ago when the explosion of vinyl really took off, but more young people especially, they're buying CDs again. Cassettes, right? I like to see that. It's good. I get frustrated with Netflix and Disney Plus and all these different all these sites, because things just vanish, right? This is never yours. If you have the disc, it's yours forever, and hopefully it retains a bit of value, maybe.
So it sounds like some people really are die-hard collectors. And it's not just records.
I really love our cult classic selection here. So we've got Fast Times at Richmond High, we've got Almost Famous, we've got
Emily Pictou-Roberts is the proud owner of a collection of more than 1,200 VHS tapes.
They're some of my absolute favorites. I've been collecting VHSs my whole life. I know I look quite young, but I'm a 90s baby, so most of my childhood was centered around physical media. There's also a very large VHS collector community here in Halifax. For example, a lot of the patrons of Propeller Arcade, they have a very large VHS collection there and do movie nights in the bar itself. So we often meet up with these different individuals and see who has what in their collection, and we trade amongst them quite a bit as well.
Give up on me. I'll fight for you.
And there we are. We've got trailers.
I think that's my favorite part is, taking your fingers and running them across the spines of the films, of the VHS tapes. It's like choosing a good book at the library. A lot of my childhood was spent in blockbusters. It gives me that bit of nostalgia, choosing the pieces. But also, I think we forget that there's artwork and a lot of different parts of the physical media that we can enjoy and look at that aren't just the movie itself. They look beautiful on the shelf. Going through, making a choice together, putting it into the machine, taking the time to rewind the film had it not been rewind previously, sitting down and watching every preview and, intentionally consuming every aspect of the tape, which I find it's a lot harder to do with the streaming services.
Records, CDs, VHS. I feel like those are the basic things you think of with physical media. But I was thinking, what about books?
Books?
Well, books, magazines, even newspapers. I feel like all of that's online these days. I'm so sick of pop-up ads telling me there are hot, single, older women in my area when I'm just trying to read the news.
I know, right? But didn't we send someone down for that?
Good point. Let's hear what our head researcher and reporter, Marielle Godfrey, found at Atlantic News, seller of all things puzzles, magazines, and other physical papers. Here's owner, Chris Green.
The trend since Amazon has been bookstores drying up, and the whole business model for newspapers is in trouble. In large part, it's a generational thing. People my age, a little bit younger, older, are used to grown up with newspapers. They've grown up with magazines. It's what they know. I was a paper boy when I was a kid, so I love the fact that there's newspapers here. I like to read newspapers. Now, the trick is getting younger people to come in, and it's really cool when high school kids, even college kids, walk in and they say, wow, look at all these magazines. I didn't know they were still around. And so a lot of it is getting people out of their silos. Technology is an amazing thing, and the fact that we carry around the world's knowledge in our phone and we can look something up, and it's particularly, I have kids and that's all they know, and I've gotten used to it. But as time goes on, people are seeing that there's a little bit more than that, and it can be a lonely place walking around staring at your phone.
Yeah.
So you come in here and people see each other and they know each other, and so this is a community space. It's almost like a cafe or a bar, because people come in and they see friends and they talk. And then if they're picking up a newspaper, there's discussions about what's going on, whether it was a hockey match last night or what's happening in politics or what's happening in the city. In a way, a declaration of independence, because when you go and seek out books or magazines or records or whatever it is, something in your hand, you have control over that rather than somebody else curating whatever message you're getting on Instagram or wherever you get your news.
Remember Professor DeNel Rehberg Sedo? She's the Communication Studies professor from Mount Saint Vincent University. She says there's also this interesting space where real books meet the digital world.
In my research world, you'll see people talking about the books that they're reading online. They make a TikTok about the book that they're going to recommend, but they'll show you a physical book. So there's this return to not reading online. In fact, the surveys that I've conducted and the other research that I've read, it's actually the older generation, those with a lot of discretionary time, who are really voracious readers. They'll read digitally through their Kindle, their iPad, or whatever digital device, for its mobility, for its accessibility. But people who are younger than they're in their 30s, they're reading physical analog books.
More evidence of a return to things you can hold in your hands.
Professor Sedo also talks about something called platform capitalism. She says it's always trying to keep us streaming, clicking, and paying.
They're there to make money. And as we know with Meta, they're making lots of money. Right? Lots and lots and lots of money. So that's always it. So the reasons that they do things are always to keep and feed that machine. Okay? Us being on there is feeding the machine. The machine might be ads to push to us. But it also, now we know that everything we write, everything we post goes into the AI catalog. So they're using it in different ways that we didn't really know about, because as I've done before, when I taught social media, I asked the students to read the terms and conditions. They're like, oh my God, are you serious? I'm like, right, exactly. So it's just like the length of all of them, and the legalese, like who in their right mind really is going to sit? But then if you don't, then you don't participate.
Books, magazines, records, DVDs. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, but I still feel like one thing's missing. Video games.
There's something to be said for having something in hand, to have something you can point out on your shelf or in your binder or on your wall and say, this is mine and I get to have it.
This is Joshua Pyle Carter. He owns the Deck Box, a place where you can buy old video games on consoles, get new cards for your collection, or even play a few games yourself.
I have cards in my collection, things that I physically own and want to keep with me, that are mementos of memories that I've had from experience I've had related to these games. And that physicality isn't replaced by just saying, well, digitally I have a copy of this somewhere. There are some things that you tie to points in time because they have, they were there at that moment, and that's a big part of the physicality to it. So I've always found that you find people who are excited and passionate about a variety of things. And when it comes to like owning the physical side of it, you'll see folks who have no connection to it, have no nostalgia to it, but like wanting to know that parts of history. There's something to be said for saying, well, the Super Nintendo may not have been a system that someone has grown up with, but we do have younger clients who come in and say, I've seen all these videos, I've watched all this stuff, I've played the emulators, but you know what? I really want to have like that physical copy of Mario World. Like I really want to have feel like a GameCube controller feels like in my hand, or mess around with an N64 controller, right? Those are an experience.
I feel like this idea of connection and community keeps coming up.
Stick with us for episode 4. Because we're going to hear about how good community is for us.
I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm a lot happier now that I'm looking for real human connection instead of simulating it.
Can't wait. Thanks so much for listening. This is Unplugged Minds. I'm Talia Freedhoff.
And I'm Luke McNabb. We'll talk to you again soon.